I'm here today with Frank DeVita, who is someone in the Pelham Road Baptist Church who knows this facility and the church from the ground up. And I think you'll understand what I'm talking about when we get through with this interview. But first of all, Frank, thank you for coming. And also, could you tell me how you learned about this church and when you became a member here?
Okay. Well, Cheryl and I got married in 1982, June. Anyway, we lived on Pelham Road, and we were visiting churches all over Greenville and all over town. We just kept riding by this little house out here on Pelham Road, and really just out of curiosity, we came in, and we had been visiting churches for about 3 months, and we're starting to, hone in on one or two that we thought we might want to join, and but we stopped in here out of curiosity one Sunday, and we never went to another church. And so we started attending in 82, August of 82.
And you got very involved. And while before and during the time that you've been in your involvement, you were also baptized. And since we don't have a baptistry here, could you give us a little insight into your baptism?
Sure. So back then, Baptists rebaptized you when you came from a different faith. I was raised Methodist, so we didn't have a baptistry here. We just, we had the house is where we had our worship. And so Central Baptist Church, which was the mother church, was where we would periodically take a group to get baptized. And I learned, I think it was last week, Chris Crane and I were baptized at the same time. He was in 6th grade and I was in my 20s.
I remember that you told me one time that you were a college wrestler and that you did some things after the Central Baptist Church was no longer a church by helping turn that church into a recreation or a community center, and some things you did there, maybe with your wrestling.
Yeah. A friend of mine, Matt Reeves, who is the founder of a youth program, the Frazee Center, which still exists today, but in a different location. The Frazee Center bought the Central Baptist Church and had it converted for its purposes, and so I got involved with that and coached the inner city youth wrestling team for about 10 years there.
You also were a deacon. So we're moving on with how he became so involved here at the church. Also, you have a claim to fame in that you were on the pulpit committee that called John, our pastor now. And so
I was.
many committees you've served on, and the properties committee. I think you told me you served on it for decades was your word, and so a long, long time in other words. Frank, could you tell me the part that you played in some of the buildings that we see here?
Sure. I think I've been on just about every building committee or involved in every building and the design of them. But the first project was the sanctuary, what everybody's familiar with, our main sanctuary building. And after that, we did the daycare wing. And then in 2004, roughly, we did the Family Life Center. And then we had a little project to connect the Family Life Center to the sanctuary, because it just used to be an open, soaking wet walk on many Sunday mornings between the two buildings. But the final project, which is probably my favorite and the one I'm most fond of, was the playground, what we know as our playground, which was really a project. It was started out as a civil project because that area would flood. That was not really a formal playground as such, but that area would flood. That was where the children played from the daycare, and so we had to figure out a way to get the water out of it. And our daycare director at the time, Susan Kerr, she really was the brainchild of kind of challenging us to think outside the traditional engineering piping civil solution, and so we were able to do something a little more creative, and I think it turned out well.
And it's indeed lovely and useful, and the children love it. You've been involved in Africa. Could you tell me something that went on, that's going on even now in Africa, that you and your brother-in-law had parts in?
Sure. And the church was faithful in helping us get started with that too. But we went on a mission trip to Tanzania in 2012. And the short version is we went back about 3 months later to drill a well. They were still primarily using groundwater for their drinking water. And so, it was, health was an issue. And so we went back and we had a well drilled. And while we were there, this is in a rural Maasai country. So the Maasai people, they're on what would be similar to a reservation that we have here for our Native Americans, but they donated about 25 acres of their land for a school. So at first we renovated a mud hut for some preschool kids, and the short version is 12 years later we now have through grade 7, and we've got over 300 kids this year at the school. And Pelham Road was instrumental in backing us and getting some of that started, and made contributions to that.
And pure water in the schools.
Yeah.
How lovely,
Yeah.
how great. You remember I said that this is a person who knew our church from the ground up. He dug, he planned, and he helped us make it what it is today. So Frank, thank you so very much for sharing not only what you've told us, but your heart. And we appreciate it that you've spent some of your heart with us. And thank you.
Thank you.